The sun hung low in the African sky, casting a golden glow across the savannah. It was one of those tranquil afternoons, the kind that felt like nature held its breath, waiting for something extraordinary to unfold. Little did anyone know, just a few miles from the Serenity, destiny was about to intervene in the most unexpected way. A lone giraffe wandered along the dusty road. Tall and graceful, she moved with a serene elegance, her long neck swaying gently. She was on her way to the watering hole, eagerly anticipating the taste of fresh water to quench her thirst. But as she walked, something caught her eye. A sharp sound pierced the stillness, a sound that didn't belong in the heartbeat of the wild, the muffled sobs of a child. Curiosity sparked within her. Giraffes are gentle creatures, known for their kind hearts. They may not be the most intelligent animals in the savannah, but their emotional instincts run deep. With each step, she felt a pull towards the sound, drawing her away from her path and into the unseen. As she ventured further, the dusty road appeared. There, sitting beneath the sprawling branches of an acacia tree, was a boy. He couldn't have been more than 6 or 7 years old, his small body curled into a tight ball, shaking with quiet cries. The giraffe froze. What was this fragile figure doing here in the middle of nowhere? Her heart swelled in a way she had never felt before. Panic set in as she took in the sight. The boy was alone. Abandoned, lost, the thought sent an electric wave of urgency through her long legs, and in an instant she began to move closer, driven by an instinct she didn't quite understand. The boy looked up with tear-streaked cheeks, his big brown eyes wide in astonishment. He had never seen a giraffe so close, and for a brief second his cries faded. The majestic creature towered over him, her gentle demeanor offering an unexpected comfort. In that moment, the boy felt a shimmer of hope cut through the veil of despair. Was this soft giant here for him? But the reality of his loneliness crashed back. He sank deeper into his sorrow, shoulders shaking with sobs. The giraffe, sensing his pain, cautiously lowered her head, bringing her face level with his. She breathed softly, her warm breath mingling with the dusty air. The boy stared into her soulful eyes, and something inside him shifted. The weight of his abandonment lingered, but so did the flicker of connection. For the giraffe, every instinct urged her to console him. She stretched her long neck further, gently nudging him with her soft muzzle. In that singular moment of wild and human connection, the boy, astonished, reached out, his small hand grazing the giraffe's face. It was a hesitant touch, but it was enough a bridge across an unfathomable chasm of loneliness. The boy's cries turned into whispers, almost unnoticeable, mingling with the rustle of grass and the distant calls of birds. The giraffe continued to stay close, her presence a silent promise that he was not alone, as if the universe sent her to be his guardian for just a while. They shared a moment etched in time, worlds apart yet brought together by pure, innocent need. In the days that followed, the miraculous encounter began to ripple through the local village. Villagers who once dismissed the whispers of the wild saw the signs: a child missing, a giraffe wandering close to the road. One afternoon, a group of villagers set out to search for the boy. As they walked along the path, their hearts heavy with concern, one of the older men spotted the giraffe. He muttered, taken aback. His eyes widened as he realized the giant animal was surrounded by a cloud of children who had come to play, utterly enchanted. They laughed and pointed, oblivious to the little boy still curled up beneath the tree. Quietly they approached. The giraffe didn't flinch. She stood her ground, vigilant, protecting the boy as if he were her calf. The old man felt a chill creep down his spine. A protective instinct surged within him, igniting the urgency to rescue the child. Whispers and soft gasps spread through the group. Someone exclaimed, rushing forward, but before anyone could reach him, the giraffe turned, blocking the way with her towering frame. Her stance was noble yet fierce, a mother hen defending her young. The villagers halted, caught between disbelief and wonder. What did it mean that a wild animal would choose to guard a human child? They stood in a line of bewildered faces and watched as the boy stirred. His eyes, still glassy but glimmering with relief, met the giraffe's calm gaze. Like magic, the fear melted away. What felt impossible, that a child could be so utterly alone, didn't matter now. For the giraffe had shown him kindness when the world had turned its back. Realizing the time had come for the boy to return home, the villagers slowly moved closer, offering their hands in gentle assurance. The giraffe stepped aside, her protective instincts momentarily giving way to the understanding that he was now no longer alone. Soon enough, the child stood, wobbly but determined, and took a few tentative steps toward the villagers. With each step, more villagers emerged from the trees, whispering encouragement. The boy finally turned and glanced back at the giraffe, who watched him with a mix of pride and sadness. In that moment, he understood. Though she would soon disappear into the wilderness, she had changed his world forever. As he neared the village, tears slid down his cheeks. This deep sadness for a bond that would soon vanish mingled with gratitude. The giraffe, once a mere creature of the wild, felt like a guardian angel. She had whispered to his heart in a time when he needed it most. The villagers rushed to him, enveloping him in hugs and warm words, but as they celebrated, one thing lingered: how did they repay such kindness? The child turned to point at the giraffe, now gracefully retreating into the horizon, her silhouette almost ethereal against the setting sun. She was both a part of his past and a lesson about connection, a reminder that love could exist even in the most unexpected forms. Word of the miraculous encounter spread like wildfire throughout the region. News outlets picked it up, storytellers wove it into folklore, and before long, the tale of the giraffe who saved the abandoned boy became a local legend. It acted as a beacon of hope and kindness in a world that often felt dark. Scientific minds became curious. The phenomenon intrigued psychologists and animal behaviorists alike. They gathered data on emotional connections between humans and animals, fueled by stories like the boy and the giraffe. New studies emerged, aiming to understand the bonds forged in moments of vulnerability. For many, the incident became more than just a tale of a child and a giraffe. It sparked conversations around empathy, compassion, and the power of connection across barriers. As the boy grew into a young man, he never forgot that day under the acacia tree. He often returned to the spot, hoping to catch a glimpse of the gentle giant who had lifted him from despair. Each visit served as a reminder or perhaps a silent conversation with the giraffe. He couldn't help but feel a piece of her spirit within him, her bravery, her grace, her steadfast loyalty. Years later, as he took one more trip to that dusty road, now lined with grasses and blooms, he sensed that something had changed in the air. The giraffe, he realized, had not just saved him that day. She had awakened something profound within him, a responsibility to protect, to nurture, and to be present. It influenced his pathway, leading him to study wildlife conservation, motivated by the need to champion the voiceless. The boy-turned-man shared his story with anyone who would listen, instilling in others a belief in unlikely connections. Perhaps they didn't need to be grand or preposterous, they simply needed to be genuine. The giraffe remained a vivid chapter in his life story, a testament to a moment where compassion crossed species. And on quiet days, he would pause and look toward the horizon, where the savannah stretched endlessly. With a smile, he'd wonder if she was out there, still roaming free, still a guardian in her own right. In a world where silence often prevails, he would remember that sometimes it takes a gentle giant to remind us we are never truly alone. The sun cast a deep orange hue across the savannah, illuminating the endless stretch of grasslands that swayed gently in the evening breeze. It was a normal day in Africa where wildlife roamed free and the air was filled with a chorus of animal calls. But on a dusty road, a scene was unfolding that none could have predicted. A lone giraffe, tall and majestic, meandered toward the horizon. Her golden spots glimmered as they caught the fading light. She moved gracefully, scanning her surroundings with her gentle, large eyes. But then a sound pierced the peaceful atmosphere, a small, heart-wrenching cry. Curious, the giraffe paused. Her ears perked up and she turned her long neck, straining to locate the source of the sorrowful sound. It was as if the cries were pulling her closer, beckoning her to discover what lay beyond the hill. As she walked toward the noise, the giraffe's towering frame cut through the tall grass until she reached the edge of the road. There, in the shadow of a lonely acacia tree, sat a boy. He must have been about 6 years old, tears streaming down his dirt-smudged cheeks as he curled into himself. The scene was startling. The boy, abandoned and vulnerable in this vast wilderness, seemed utterly lost. The giraffe's heart, though instinctually tuned to survival, felt a deep pang of compassion. What had brought this little one here, alone and crying? Drawing closer, the giraffe tilted her head and lowered it to gaze into the boy's eyes. They locked in a moment that seemed to stretch for eternity. The boy looked up, initially startled at the sight of this extraordinary creature. Cries halted, and for the first time in what felt like forever, his large round eyes appeared immersed in wonder. As the giraffe nudged gently toward him, the boy instinctively reached out a trembling hand. He wasn't afraid. In that moment, he felt something stir inside of him, a glimmer of connection. The mere presence of this creature, so powerful and yet so peaceful, filled a void he thought would never heal. Time seemed to stop as the giraffe and the boy remained in a trance, sharing an unspoken bond. But the gentle giant knew that something wasn't right. She could sense the boy's loneliness, his need for reassurance and safety. A deep instinct kicked in. It was as if she understood that no matter how big the world felt, they were meant to be together in this moment. Suddenly, the boy burst into tears again, muffled wails breaking the stillness. He shook his head in despair, his tiny body trembling. The giraffe drew closer, wrapping her long, delicate neck around him as if to comfort him. Her warm breath washed over his face, and it was as if a protective shell enveloped him. Several miles away, villagers began to notice the missing boy. They gathered with nervous hearts, spreading the news like wildfire. People frantically searched the entire area, fears bubbling over as they called his name, Daniel. Echoed through the trees, the mother, overwhelmed by worry, clutched a piece of his favorite shirt, her heart racing with each tick of time. Meanwhile, the giraffe stood sentinel near the boy, every instinct telling her to protect him. The two formed an unlikely duo, an image painted against the backdrop of the setting sun. One was a lost child, and the other, a wild creature, both stranded in a moment filled with an urgent need for connection. As the sun dipped lower, the cries of the villagers grew louder, echoing through the wilds. The boy, despite his sorrow, found solace in the warmth of the giraffe's body. He felt a shift within himself, a comforting wave of safety layer by layer replacing his despair. Just then, Daniel glanced up at the giraffe, sharing a quiet smile. With newfound strength, he wiped the tears from his cheeks and leaned against her side. They had become a small world unto themselves, a boy and a giraffe intertwined in an unexpected friendship. But fate had not yet finished playing its hand. As night approached, the sky darkened and the sounds of nature shifted. The giraffe felt something approaching, a disturbance in the air. She raised her head, alert, her stature combining grace and vigilance. Unbeknownst to the boy, a group of villagers was getting closer, guided by the sounds of the wild. Mother led the charge, her heart racing and eyes searching. In the distance, a silhouette emerged against the night sky. The flickering shadows of trees created a haunting dance, and she felt her heart skip a beat. Could that be? As they moved forward, they stopped in their tracks, disbelief washing over them. Staring into the clearing, they saw her, a tall giraffe standing protectively over the boy, her gentle eyes surveying the gathering crowd. Muted gasps spread through the villagers like wildfire. How could this be? His mother cried out, reaching for him, panic and relief blending into one. The boy jumped to his feet, confused but unafraid, running toward her, his laughter mingling with tears as hope surged in his heart. The giraffe, sensing the sudden rush, took a step back. She had fulfilled her purpose for now. With one last look at the boy, a mixture of pride and sadness in her eyes, she turned and gracefully wandered back into the wilderness from which she had come. As the villagers rushed to envelop Daniel, they looked toward the departing giraffe, a collective awe filling the air. The tangled emotions of worry, relief, and deep gratitude mingled together as they grasped the miracle they had just witnessed. In that moment, it dawned on everyone that the boy had been brought back from the edge, not just by humans, but by the unexpected kindness of a wild creature who had somehow sensed his pain. For the villagers, the story would become a heartbeat of their community, whispered through generations, how a gentle giant saved a boy, proving that even those from different worlds can create a profound connection. Days turned into weeks, and as life returned to normal, the boy found himself haunted by a question. Why had the giraffe picked him? Each visit to the acacia tree brought memories flooding back, a moment in time that felt like spellbinding magic. Then revelations unfolded. As psychologists studied the phenomenon, stories of human-animal connections sparked dialogue. They explored how animals, despite their nature, often enter the realm of emotional understanding. When Daniel came of age, he began sharing his story, teaching others about empathy and the bonds between man and beast. His tale ignited discussions about conservation and kindness, making real change in the community. Daniel grew into a young man driven by the urgency of those whispered moments. He pursued a career in wildlife conservation, inspired by the giraffe's protective instinct and his own journey through fear. Every conservation effort became an homage to that afternoon, where a broken heart was stitched back together through unexpected kindness. Years later, he returned to that very spot where magic had unfolded again, bathed in the same soft glow of the sunset. He closed his eyes and felt the familiar warmth in the air. It was as if the spirit of the giraffe lingered. In a world that often felt chaotic, he understood that vulnerability binds us, kindness knows no bounds, and love can be found in every crevice of life, even in the wild. As he wandered deeper into the savannah, he hoped to someday see her again, to catch a glimpse of that gentle giant who had bravely bridged the gap between two worlds. With every step, he carried the lesson with him. Never overlook the magic around you, for it can change your life in the most unexpected ways. No one, not the villagers, not even Daniel himself, could ever forget how one giraffe changed everything, how connection comes when you least expect it, transforming lost into found, despair into hope, and solitude into belonging. In the vast expanse of life, sometimes it takes the gentlest of giants to remind us of the bonds that truly matter. The sun hung low in the African sky, painting the horizon in shades of gold and crimson. The savannah, usually alive with the sounds of chirping birds and rustling leaves, fell silent. A curious tension filled the air, as though nature itself was holding its breath. In that stillness, a loud, heart-wrenching cry shattered the calm. A boy's sobs echoed through the air, desperate and full of pain. A giraffe, tall and graceful, was grazing nearby. Her long neck swayed gently, her beautiful spotted coat shimmering like a mosaic against the lush greens of the grasslands. Usually she moved with a calm dignity, but the sound of that child's cries drew her attention like a magnet. Intrigued and concerned, she turned and padded softly along the dirt path, her long legs carrying her toward the unexpected noise. As she walked, the sobs grew louder, more urgent. The giraffe pushed through the tall grass and reached the edge of the road. There, sitting beneath the shade of a lone acacia tree, was a small boy. He curled in on himself, his tiny frame shaking with tears. A sense of sorrow washed over the gentle giant as she observed him, and in that moment something deep inside her stirred a fierce, protective instinct. What was he doing there, all alone in the wilderness? She approached with cautious grace, carefully lowering her head to bring herself eye level with the boy. He opened his tear-stained eyes, and for a split second their gazes locked. There was a profound understanding in that connection, a silent acknowledgement of shared loneliness. The boy, startled at the sight of this magnificent creature, blinked away his tears and took a shaky breath. In a world where he felt abandoned, the towering giraffe stood like a guardian, a living embodiment of hope. He reached out a tiny hand, trembling but brave. And in response, the giraffe edged closer, her warm breath enveloping him like a soft blanket. The boy found comfort in that moment. Instead of feeling fear, he was engulfed by a sense of protection. As he lay against the giraffe's side, the raw pain of abandonment began to feel less overwhelming. The giraffe nudged him gently, her long neck curling protectively around him as if shielding him from the harsh realities of the world. She remained close, her presence a promise that he was not alone. But somewhere far away, a storm brewed. Concerned villagers had noticed the boy was missing. Daniel, the child they had grown to love, was nowhere to be found. Panic spread quickly through the village, echoing like thunder. They gathered in the town square, voices rising in urgency as they called for him. Daniel, the cries pierced the air, blending with the calls of the wild. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the land, the villagers set out to search for him. They scoured the fields, worried thoughts racing as they called his name. At the same time, Daniel sat beneath the acacia tree, feeling the warmth of the giraffe beside him. He felt shielded from the world's chaos, but he knew he had to return. The giraffe sensed the turmoil, her instincts alert. She opened her ears to the sounds around them. The cries of the villagers danced through the air, drawing closer. Daniel looked up at her, the reality of his situation hitting him. He couldn't hide forever, he had to go home. Suddenly, the shrieks of joy from his rescuers forced their way into the clearing. As they approached, Daniel felt a surge of fear mixed with relief. The villagers spotted him at last, eyes wide with disbelief as they took in the scene before them. A boy nestled against a giraffe, both seemingly at peace in their shared moment. His mother cried, relief washing over her face like a wave. The sight of her child brought tears to her eyes. She rushed forward, her heart exploding with longing. The villagers, filled with amazement and disbelief, slowed their steps as they witnessed this strange tableau. The giraffe lifted her head, sensing the rush of emotions, the tidal wave of love that swept toward Daniel. Yet she didn't retreat, she remained steadfast, her gentle eyes surveying the approaching crowd. There was something magnificent in how she protected him, an alliance formed in moments of despair. "Come here, sweetheart," his mother beckoned, her voice trembling with emotion. Daniel stood, taking uncertain steps toward her. But just as he began to move, the giraffe shifted her weight, blocking the path like a sentinel guarding its own castle. Time seemed to freeze as the villagers, caught between awe and confusion, held their breath. What does one do in the presence of such raw emotion? They had come to find a boy, but had stumbled upon a profound connection, a bond between man and beast that defied explanation. Slowly, Daniel, still unsure, glanced back at the giraffe. She tilted her head, a gentle nudge toward freedom, as if telling him this was his time. He felt a surge of gratitude rush through him, loving her for giving him strength. In a moment of trust, he took another step and reached out, his hand brushing against her spotted neck. "Thank you," he whispered, his voice barely audible, and in that simple act the giraffe seemed to understand. With measured grace, she stepped aside, allowing Daniel to pass. The villagers enveloped him, wrapping him in a chorus of relieved murmurs and soft hugs, grounding him back into the world he had almost lost. As the giraffe turned to leave, the boy felt a pang in his chest. He had just begun to understand the support of a being who could have ignored him, who could have walked away, yet chose to offer comfort instead. The villagers watched the giraffe retreat into the evening bush, her silhouette gradually fading into the dusk. In the days that followed, news of the miraculous encounter spread through the village like wildfire. Stories began to swirl around campfires and within the warm embrace of family gatherings. The boy and the giraffe had become legends, and those who had witnessed the moment couldn't shake the profound sense of what they had experienced. Local artists began to create paintings, depicting the boy and the gentle giant lying together under the acacia tree, capturing the emotional depth of their bond. Children whispered about the day when a giraffe became a hero, inspiring them to believe that kindness could come from the most unexpected places. As time passed, the villagers began to reflect more deeply on the connection between humans and animals, feeling a responsibility to nurture the bonds that can quietly weave the fabric of life. Daniel, now more aware than ever, felt a calling to share his story. He stood in front of schools, sharing how a little compassion had saved him. That connection was his lifeline, a reminder that even in darkness, light can shine through unexpected channels. The respect and love for wildlife began to burgeon, leading to community efforts toward conservation. But Daniel also struggled with the reality of their connection. He would often visit the acacia tree, hoping to catch a glimpse of the gentle giant who had saved him. He longed to express his gratitude, to show her how her kindness had transformed his world. One day, months later, he found himself standing at that tree again, feeling the warmth of the sun spreading across his chest. He closed his eyes and whispered a silent wish into the wind, daring to hope she might return. "Just one more time," he murmured, heart racing. Days turned into weeks, and just when Daniel thought he might never see her again, something extraordinary happened. During a routine visit, he caught sight of a familiar shape in the distance. His heart leaped. There she was. The giraffe emerged gracefully from the golden fields, her silhouette framed against the horizon. Daniel felt frozen in place, a rush of emotions coursing through him. She was close again. He couldn't believe it. He moved forward cautiously, unsure if she would remember him, unsure if she even cared. But as he got closer, the giraffe raised her head and locked eyes with him. Recognition sparked in both of them, a moment that transcended words. With a gentle tilt of her head, she took a step toward him, and he felt a flood of warmth engulf him. He ran the rest of the way, reaching out to her, the bond indelible in his heart. This time they met not in fear or solitude, but in joy. Daniel laughed as he wrapped his arms around her neck, feeling the familiarity of her presence wash over him. The giraffe nudged him softly, and for both of them, the moment was like a reunion of souls. In the surrounding wilderness, as they stood together, Daniel understood the power of connection more than ever. It was not just about humans or animals. It was about kindness, empathy, and the innate need for companionship. They would remain linked through time, two beings from different worlds brought together by that one defining moment, a reminder that love has no boundaries. In a world that often feels divided, that day under the acacia tree became a testament to the extraordinary bonds that can exist. It reminded everyone, in ways big and small, that the heart knows no limits when it comes to love. And in the embrace of a giraffe, Daniel found solace, healing, and a profound understanding. True connection is what defines us all. The sun dipped low in the sky, casting warm hues across the African savannah. The golden grass swayed gently in the breeze, creating a tranquil scene that felt almost surreal. But beneath this serene surface, something was shaking the foundations of solitude. A heart-wrenching sound cut through the air, a little boy's sobs echoing across the lonely dirt road. A giraffe, tall and majestic, stopped in her tracks. Her long neck arched as she looked around, scanning the horizon for the source of the cries. Usually focused on munching leaves from tall trees, her instincts kicked in, questions raced through her mind. What was causing such distress? As she moved cautiously toward the sound, she sensed something was terribly wrong. The boy's cries grew louder, filled with deep sadness. Was he lost, abandoned? The giraffe, whose gentle heart was unmatched, felt an inexplicable urge to investigate. Leveling her long neck, she stepped forward, the soft sound of her hooves barely breaking the silence. Finally, she reached the edge of the road and saw him. There, beneath the shade of an acacia tree, sat a boy of no more than 6 or 7 years old. His small frame was curled tightly, his little hands covering his face as tears streamed down his cheeks. The sight pierced the giraffe's heart, making her pause. What could have brought him here so utterly alone? As she approached slowly, each step deliberate, she felt a surge of determination. She needed to help him. The cries tugged at her very essence. Drawing nearer, she reached out with her long neck, bringing her head down to his level. The boy, startled by the sudden presence of this towering creature, slowly opened his eyes. Their gazes met, his tear-filled, hers warm and inviting. For a brief moment, it felt as though time stood still. She seemed to say without words. The boy blinked back his tears as he took in the giraffe's gentle eyes, her massive frame radiating kindness. He hesitated, but slowly reached out a small hand. He was afraid, yet curious, and in that moment of vulnerability, the giraffe sensed he needed comfort more than anything else. She leaned in closer, her warm breath gifting him solace. He touched her soft, spotted neck, and the weight of his sadness momentarily lifted. Rather than feeling intimidated, he felt a profound sense of belonging. The fear of abandonment softened into something almost magical. They stood there, boy and giraffe, an unlikely duo united in shared solitude. Yet miles away, a search party began to form in the village. His mother's frantic calls echoed through the townsfolk. Daniel, with worry painted on their faces, the villagers gathered, ready to scour the landscape for the lost child. They felt an urgency, a primal fear coursing through them. Back at the acacia tree, the boy felt comforted, but deep within him, he knew he should be with his family. The thoughts of all the people who loved him began to surface. He glanced up at the giraffe, and for a moment he wished he could stay in this peaceful bubble forever, but he realized it was time to return. The giraffe, too, sensed the change in the air. She stood tall, aware that something was about to happen. As the cries of his name drew nearer, she felt a wave of protectiveness surge through her. This little boy needed her, and she wouldn't let go until it was time. As the villagers stepped closer, each heart racing in anticipation, they stumbled upon the scene before them. At first, disbelief filled the air as they took in the sight. A boy nestled comfortably against a giraffe's side, both seeming to share a moment of understanding and peace. His mother gasped, tears rushing to her eyes. There was relief, then shock, as the group processed the stark image of their child with a giant wild animal. Whispered gasps filled the atmosphere, mingling with a chorus of astonished gratitude. The giraffe noticed the villagers advancing and cautiously raised her head. With a graceful movement, she stepped protectively in front of the boy, her massive frame creating a barrier. She had become his guardian in a world too chaotic to understand. His mother, breaking through the moment of astonishment, reached out her arms. Daniel's heart raced. He wanted nothing more than to run to her, yet the giraffe blocked his path. Time seemed to weave memories and emotions into one heavy fabric. He felt torn between two worlds, the safety of a wild creature and the love of his family. The giraffe lowered her neck, coming closer to Daniel. In her eyes, he saw a silent message. "You are safe." Stealing his courage, Daniel reached toward her neck one last time, fingers brushing against her soft fur before turning towards his mother, who rushed forward, desperation blending into a wave of relief as she enveloped him in her arms. When the giraffe saw the boy safe in the loving embrace of his family, she stepped back, her heart swelling with pride. She had done her duty. With one last glance at Daniel, she quietly turned and began her retreat into the wild. In that moment, something indescribable hung in the air, a connection forged between worlds. The villagers stood in awe, and the love surrounding Daniel felt palpable. There was a sense of deep gratitude intertwined with the air, magnifying the experience into something transcendent. As the giraffe moved away, the villagers shared their disbelief. How could this happen? They hadn't just found a lost child, they had witnessed something remarkable. This wild animal chose to protect him. In the days that followed, the news of the encounter spread like wildfire. Daniel became the talk of the village, a living legend. Children gathered around him, eyes wide with awe as he recounted the tale of his protector. Merchants crafted small giraffe figurines, and artists painted beautiful scenes of the boy and the gentle giant. But as Daniel tried to adjust back to his life, he carried an ache in his heart, a longing for his friend, the giraffe who had shown him such kindness. He began making daily trips to the acacia tree, hoping to catch a glimpse of her return. He longed to thank her properly, to somehow show her how much she meant to him. The village transformed too. Inspired by the connection between Daniel and the giraffe, neighboring communities began to engage in discussions about the natural world and the importance of kindness to all living beings. They created initiatives to protect wildlife, schools started educational programs, and families reveled in the importance of the emotional bonds shared between humans and animals. One day, as Daniel made his way to the acacia tree, a sense of peace settled over him. He felt an unexplainable tug in his heart. Maybe today will be different, he thought. As he neared the familiar opening, he suddenly stopped. There on the horizon, her spotted coat illuminated by the soft light of dusk, was the giraffe. He felt a rush of joy that pulled him forward. Could it really be? His heart thundered as he ran toward her, each step echoing hope. Glimmers of connection sparked in both of them as they met again, the world around them dissolving into nothing. Daniel wrapped his arms around her neck, feeling safe and understood. The giraffe leaned down, nuzzling him affectionately. In that moment, nothing else mattered, just the silent understanding between them. Daniel understood that their bond went beyond simple gratitude. It was a connection that spoke volumes. Years passed, and Daniel grew into a young man, fortifying his love for wildlife. He took great care to share his experiences, spreading awareness like seeds in the wind. Every time he spoke about the giraffe, his heart ached with a bittersweet nostalgia, reminding him of a profound moment when he truly learned what it meant to feel understood. As time wore on, Daniel ventured into the field of conservation, dedicated to ensuring that future generations would cherish the beauty of wildlife. He organized community events, creating lasting connections between his village and the natural world around them. Those moments filled him with purpose, leading like breadcrumbs down memory lane. But every visit back to the savannah sparked the same feeling. An intense hope spiraled within him as he wandered through the fields, silently hoping to catch another glimpse of his old friend. Each rustle in the grass would send his heart racing, and with each sunrise, he found himself yearning for that connection once more. One fateful day, the air shimmered with a hint of expectation. As he stood near a familiar acacia tree, he felt something shift in the vibrations around him. He closed his eyes and listened to the sounds of the savannah, each melody painting memories across the tapestry of his heart. Then, from a distance, he felt the unmistakable presence of a gaze upon him. He opened his eyes, his breath hitching at the sight. A tall, majestic figure stood in the distance, silhouetted against the golden light. His heart raced as a wave of joy washed over him. There she was, the giraffe. Not a moment's hesitation crossed his mind as he rushed toward her, feeling the deep bond they shared flow through him. As he closed the distance, she seemed to recognize him, her big brown eyes lighting up in a way that made his heart swell. The two stood together, an unchained moment woven from time, years of separation melting away as they came back together. In the embrace of nature, amidst the sprawling savannah, Daniel felt complete. Their connection transcended words. It was something pure and extraordinary, an embodiment of kindness, resilience, and the undeniable beauty of all living beings. Both boy and giraffe, they learned soon enough that love knows no bounds and connections between worlds can become the greatest adventure of all. And as they stood together, a boy and a gentle giant, they became living proof that the universe often conspires to teach us the most important lesson of all. We are never truly alone. The air was thick with the scent of dust and wild grasses, a typical afternoon in the African savannah. As the sun began its descent, casting a golden glow over the land, a sudden sound pierced the tranquility. The unmistakable cries of a child echoed through the stillness. It was a haunting sound, full of despair. A lone giraffe, regal and serene, lifted her head from munching the plentiful leaves of an acacia tree. Her ears perked up at the sound. It was unusual to hear such distress in the calm of the savannah, and her instincts were sharp. With each step, she could feel an invisible pull guiding her toward the source of the heart-wrenching sobs. She paused as she neared the dirt road, her long legs moving gracefully over the ground. As she peered around, she spotted him. A small boy, no more than 6 years old, curled up beneath the shade of a tree, tears streaming down his dirt-streaked face. The sight stopped her in her tracks. What was a child doing here, alone and abandoned? The boy's small body shook with every sob, and in that moment the giraffe felt an overwhelming wave of empathy wash over her. Deep down, she couldn't understand how or why this boy had found himself here, but instinctively she knew she needed to help. With cautious curiosity, the giraffe approached, her long neck stretching down to meet his gaze. The boy looked up, startled and confused, his wide eyes filled with a mixture of fear and wonder. In that haunting moment, their eyes locked. The boy's tear-soaked face and the kind, gentle eyes of the giraffe shared a bond that transcended species. The giraffe seemed to say with her gentle expression, her presence radiating warmth. The boy blinked, stunned, as he momentarily forgot his sorrow. For a brief second, it was as if the chaos of the world faded away, leaving only this magnificent creature before him. He wiped his tears with the back of his hand and extended a tiny arm. It took a moment for him to gather the courage, but as he made contact with her sun-kissed fur, a calm enveloped him. The giraffe leaned in closer, her warm breath brushing against his cheek, and the boy felt something extraordinary, a sense of protection, a feeling he thought was lost forever. Back in a nearby village, the boy's absence didn't go unnoticed. Panic soon brewed among the townsfolk, his distraught mother leading the charge as they cried out his name, Daniel. Every shout echoed through the valleys, bouncing off the hills as families quickly joined the search party. Concern turned into frantic urgency, fueled by a mix of fear and desperate hope. Meanwhile, absorbed in the moment beneath the acacia tree, Daniel felt a strange comfort wrapped around him. His sadness began to ebb away, replaced by the soothing presence of the giraffe. It was almost as if she understood his pain, standing vigil like a watchful guardian. She gently nudged him, encouraging him to find strength in her company. But the cries of his name grew louder in the distance, echoing through the trees. Daniel's heart jumped. He knew he had to return. With a mix of hesitation and determination, he turned his gaze back to the giraffe. Her eyes, dark and knowing, told him she understood. As the search party crested a nearby hill, they were startled by the sight before them. The villagers froze, their voices trailing off into silence. There, cradled in the shadow of the giant giraffe, sat the lost boy, now calm and secure. His mother dashed forward, her voice breaking as relief flooded her heart. But as she approached, the giraffe instinctively stepped closer to the boy, blocking her path. The villagers stood in awe, captivated by this beautiful moment, a wild creature choosing to protect a child. Let him be, a voice finally broke the silence. An elder from the village stepped forward, sensing the giant's intent. This giraffe has taken care of him, she has given him comfort. The villagers nodded slowly, recognizing the bond this gentle giant had forged with Daniel. They watched, hearts pounding, as the giraffe continued to stand protectively over him, the embodiment of strength and compassion. Finally, gathering his courage, Daniel reached out to his mother, who quickly enveloped him in her embrace, her tears mingling with his. She cried, holding him tightly. The giraffe stepped back, sensing her duty was fulfilled. With a tender glance at the boy, she turned gracefully and began to stride away, back into the wild. Daniel watched her retreating figure, a sense of loss surging through him. The villagers were still in disbelief, mouths agape, fully aware that they had witnessed something miraculous. How had a giraffe known to protect a child? As time passed, the story of Daniel and the giraffe echoed through the village, growing into a legend that was recounted with wonder. The incident sparked countless conversations about the bonds between animals and humans. People began to realize how often nature offered lessons on kindness and empathy. Schools invited Daniel to share his story, and as he spoke, he saw how captivated the children were. They hung onto his every word, eyes wide as he described his companion's gentle nature. He told them how the giraffe had wrapped him in a blanket of warmth and comfort when he felt most alone. Inspired by his experience, the villagers rallied together to protect the wildlife around them. They organized community events to spread awareness about the importance of preserving natural habitats, the very spaces where magic could occur. Daniel would often return to the acacia tree, sitting quietly beneath its branches, hoping to catch a glimpse of his guardian. Each time he visited, he would close his eyes and whisper a heartfelt thank you. He wanted to convey everything he felt, the gratitude that filled his heart. Days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months. Daniel continued to grow, both physically and emotionally, yet the memory of the giraffe remained etched in his soul. The world around him changed, but he never forgot the day a gentle giant sheltered him from despair. One day, as he returned to the same place, he felt a surge in the air. It was as if the very essence of the savannah had shifted. Heart racing, he scanned the horizon, praying for a sign. Was it possible? Could she come back? Then, in the distance, he spotted her. The same giraffe, tall and beautiful, grazing peacefully. His heart leaped with joy. Could she actually remember him? The sun glinted off her coat, making her look almost ethereal as he rushed forward, each step filled with hope. As he drew nearer, their eyes locked again. It felt like the world fell away, time slowed, and memories danced between them. Daniel felt a rush of emotion as he got closer, his heart pounding like a drum. He reached out just as he had before, and felt the familiar warmth of her fur beneath his fingers. In a symphony of joyful cries, Daniel laughed out loud, and the giraffe leaned closer, nuzzling him once more. The bond they shared was undeniable, built upon that moment of vulnerability when he had needed her most. The connection felt stronger than before, a testament to the power of compassion. Daniel stroked her neck gently, whispering thanks that flowed like a river from the depths of his heart. In the vast expanse of the wild, they shared an unbreakable bond, a reminder to cherish those unexpected connections that change our lives forever. Years passed, and Daniel grew into a young man deeply committed to animal conservation, fueled by the memory of his childhood encounter. He educated others on wildlife protection, believing firmly that moments of compassion, no matter how small, could shift the world. Even as he continued his work, he remained tethered to that day under the acacia tree. It held a sacred space in his heart. One day, while leading a conservation seminar, he paused mid-sentence, recalling that gentle giant. He wondered if others could understand the beauty of that bond. At the end of the event, a child approached, wide-eyed with wonder, clutching a small giraffe toy. He asked in breathless excitement. Daniel nodded, a smile spreading across his face as he recalled that fateful day. "Yes, I did." Years faded into a tapestry of memories, but the giraffe remained a reference point, a guiding light leading him on his path. He dedicated his life to creating spaces where all beings could flourish together, these teachings rooted in the compassion of a gentle soul. And so the tale of Daniel and the giraffe continued to spread, woven into the fabric of the village. People began to carry forth the lessons they learned, the importance of protecting nature and embracing the love that crosses boundaries. As Daniel roamed the savannah, every shadow cast by a graceful neck reminded him of that moment, of the unspeakable bond that had changed him forever. He felt the gentle breeze on his skin, and for an instant, he was transported back to that day, where a crying boy found solace in the heart of a giraffe, two worlds coming together, leaving echoes of compassion that would ripple through time. The sun hung low in the vast African sky, casting a warm golden hue over the savannah. The air was filled with the gentle rustling of tall grass and the distant calls of wildlife settling in for the evening. It was a beautiful scene, serene and untouched, until a piercing sound shattered the calm. A child's sob echoed through the expanse, filled with raw, desperate emotion. A giraffe, tall and graceful, was grazing nearby. She paused, her long neck extending as she took notice of the distressing noise. What could possibly cause such heartache in this tranquil place? Driven by a mix of curiosity and concern, she turned and walked toward the source, each step purposeful and deliberate. As she approached, the sound grew clearer, more urgent. It was a small boy, no older than 7, curled up at the side of a dusty road beneath a sprawling acacia tree. His tiny body shook with tears, and in that moment the giraffe felt an overwhelming wave of empathy wash over her. How could this child be left alone, lost in the vast wilderness? Her heart thumped in her chest as she lowered her long neck until her soft brown eyes were level with his. The boy looked up, startled but curious. His face was tear-streaked, his small hands clutching at the grass as if it were all that was left of his fragile world. For a second, time stood still, a powerful connection ignited between the two, transcending the boundaries of species. In that moment, a rush of emotion rippled through the giraffe. She could sense the boy's sorrow. It clung to him like a heavy blanket. She thought, with a gentle nudge, she inched closer, wanting to offer him comfort. The boy hesitated, but gradually reached out, his tiny fingers brushing against the soft fur of the giraffe's neck. The warmth of her presence engulfed him, and something deep within him began to shift. The tears that had flowed so freely moments before started to ebb. The giraffe remained steadfast, her calm demeanor radiating a sense of safety. In that nurturing silence, he felt less alone, as if he was cradled by the universe itself. But far away, in a nearby village, a storm brewed. The villagers had noticed the absence of the boy Daniel. His mother's frantic cries echoed through the home's Daniel. Her voice trembled with panic, the fear of losing her child clawing at her heart. Families rushed to join the search, voices ringing out as they fanned out across the landscape, their urgency palpable. As night began to creep in, Daniel sat beneath the acacia tree, initially comforted by the giraffe's presence. She stood like a guardian, her towering figure offering solace against the creeping shadows. But even as he basked in the warmth of their connection, he could feel the pull of his world, the worry and love that awaited him at home. Suddenly, he heard the faint sounds of his name rising in the wind, punctuated by the frantic desperation of his mother. The cries grew closer, igniting a flicker of hope in his chest. Though his heart ached to stay with the gentle giant, he knew he had to return home. He looked up at the giraffe, whose large eyes held a depth of understanding. With a heavy heart he stood, the warmth of the giraffe's presence lingered around him. But before he could take a step, he noticed the villagers approaching. Their expressions turned from concern to shock, disbelief flooding the air as they laid eyes on the scene before them. The sight of their beloved Daniel nestled beside a protective giraffe was beyond what any of them could have imagined. Mother cried again, rushing forward, but the giraffe instinctively stepped between them, a guard in this moment of vulnerability. Time hung in the balance, the villagers frozen, caught between amazement and fear. They could see the deep bond between their boy and this wild creature. It felt almost sacred. Slowly, the elder of the village stepped forward. "Let him be," he said, raising a hand to calm the crowd. "This giraffe has offered him protection." The words hung heavy in the air, resonating with truth. Daniel felt a warm wave of appreciation wash over him for the giraffe who had stood by his side. As his mother approached cautiously, Daniel reached for her, his small hand touching hers. "I'm okay, Mom," he said softly, trying to reassure her even as he felt the bittersweet tug of parting from the giraffe. This wild creature had given him comfort when he felt most alone. With tears in her eyes and trembling hands, his mother scooped him up, embracing him tightly. The giraffe stepped back, sensing that her duty was complete. With one last look at Daniel, she turned gracefully toward the wild, her long legs carrying her away into the wilderness. As she disappeared into the tall grass, Daniel felt a sudden emptiness in his heart. The villagers burst into a collective sigh of relief, astonished by the miracle they had just witnessed. In the days that followed, stories of that fateful afternoon spread like wildfire throughout the village. Families gathered around campfires to share the tale of how a gentle giant had protected their beloved boy. Children listened wide-eyed as Daniel recounted his experience, speaking of the warmth and comfort he felt beneath the giraffe's watchful gaze. Daniel's connection with the giraffe sparked something unique in the village. Conversations bubbled up about the bonds between humans and animals, igniting a passion for understanding wildlife that had previously gone unfocused. The villagers began to see the beauty in nurturing their relationships with nature. In his heart, Daniel felt a longing for that day under the acacia tree. He would often return to the same spot, hoping to catch a glimpse of the magnificent creature who had offered him solace. With each visit, he whispered heartfelt expressions of gratitude into the wind, yearning to convey everything she meant to him. Then one afternoon, as he made his way to the tree, the air felt charged with expectation. He closed his eyes, allowing the warmth of the sun to wash over him. Just then he heard it, a soft rustle as if the very earth itself was speaking. His heart raced as he opened his eyes, hope igniting within him. There in the distance he saw her, the giraffe. Her silhouette was stunning against the ember glow of the setting sun. Joy surged through him as he rushed forward, every step electrifying. Could she truly remember him after all this time? When they were close enough to see each other clearly, she paused and lowered her head, her gentle eyes locking onto his. It felt like a reunion of souls, a moment where the entire universe rejoiced in their connection. Daniel reached out, his hand trembling slightly, and felt the familiar warmth of her fur beneath his fingertips. "Thank you," he breathed, emotions flooding his heart like a rushing river. As if sensing the depth of his gratitude, the giraffe nuzzled him gently, the bond strong and unbroken. They stood together, boy and giraffe, encapsulated in an unspoken understanding that transcended the boundaries of their worlds. Years passed, but the memory of their encounter remained a vital force in Daniel's life. As he grew into a young man, he became an advocate for wildlife conservation, driven by that one powerful moment of connection. He traveled to schools, sharing his story, hoping to inspire others to see the extraordinary beauty within the bonds between humans and animals. In classrooms filled with eager eyes, he relayed how kindness could change lives. "That giraffe didn't just protect me," he would say. "She showed me that we are all connected." As whispers of Daniel's story traveled far and wide, he watched as a community began to hold nature in a newfound regard. Families joined conservation initiatives, dedicating time to protect the wild spaces that housed magnificent creatures like his beloved giraffe. Even as his role in conservation grew, nothing compared to the longing he felt for the giraffe. On quiet afternoons, he would return to the savannah, standing beneath the acacia tree, seeking that same magic he had felt long ago. Each visit was imbued with hope and expectation, a silent prayer that misfortunes would never separate him from the beauty of their connection. One sunny afternoon, while leading a group of curious children through the open fields, thoughts of the giraffe resurfaced. He quietly shared his story with them, the thrill of adventure, and the deep understanding of protection shared between a boy and his guardian. As they wandered farther into the savannah, laughter twinkled in the air, but something caught his attention, a familiar rustle in the grass. Heart pounding, he looked closer and saw her. There she was. The giraffe stood gracefully at the edge of a thicket, her large eyes watching him. Joy exploded within Daniel. In that moment, time slipped away as he felt the landscape fade into insignificance. All that mattered was the connection, the bond reforged after all those years. With every ounce of childlike enthusiasm, he ran toward her, his heart soaring. The giraffe stood still as he reached her, their eyes meeting with a familiar warmth. He reached out, fingers brushing against her fur, and in that instant the world around them disappeared. It was just the two of them, bound by a history that had weathered time. "I always knew you'd come back," he whispered, tears of happiness brimming in his eyes, overwhelmed by the joy of their reunion. As they stood together, the spirit of connection wrapped around them, bridging the distance between species, reinforcing the truth that love and empathy bind us all. In the heart of the savannah, amidst the intricate dance of life, the boy and the giraffe found solace in knowing they were never truly alone. The breathtaking journey of Daniel and his guardian taught many that compassion knows no bounds and that sometimes the most profound relationships are the ones we least expect. Together, in a world often divided, they shared a love that transcended all barriers, a reminder that in moments of despair, help could come from the most unexpected places. And in that enduring bond, they found strength, joy, and the beauty of connection. The sun hung low over the African savannah, casting a golden hue that wrapped the landscape in warmth. The tall grasses swayed gently in the afternoon breeze, creating a soothing rhythm, broken only by the rustling of animals hidden in the brush. But then a piercing sound shattered the peace. A child's wail echoed through the open expanse, filled with despair and heartbreak. A lone giraffe paused mid-step, her towering form silhouetted against the painted sky. She lifted her head, long neck reaching out, her ears straining toward the desperate cries. What on earth could disturb the tranquility of this vast wild? Driven by instinctual pull, she turned and walked purposefully down the dusty road, her heart resonating with the little voice in distress. As she moved closer, the cries grew louder and more frantic. She stepped cautiously into a clearing, and there, beside the road, she spotted him, a young boy no older than 6, curled up in the dirt, sobbing uncontrollably. His small frame trembled, dirt smudged across his tear-streaked face. The giraffe's heart sank. What was a child doing alone in the wild? With every inch, she felt an overwhelming desire to comfort him. She lowered her head, bringing her large, gentle eyes level with his. The boy looked up, startled, his big brown eyes widening as they met the gaze of the towering creature. For a moment, time stood still. The world around them faded, leaving only this delicate moment of connection. The giraffe seemed to express without words. The boy blinked, startled by the creature before him, but as he stared deep into her eyes, something inside him began to shift. He extended a small hand, trembling but brave, reaching out to touch the warm, soft fur of the giraffe's neck. At that moment, the warmth of her presence wrapped around him like a hug, and for the first time, the boy felt a flicker of hope amid his despair. The sobs quieted, replaced by the gentle rhythm of shared silence as he leaned against the giant animal. He didn't feel alone anymore, he felt protected. But far away in the nearby village, chaos erupted. Panic spread through the homes as families realized little Daniel was missing. Daniel, his mother's voice rang out, filled with fear. Community members quickly gathered, their worry transforming into frantic energy as they organized search parties. Whispered a neighbor, eyes wide with anxiety. Back beneath the acacia tree, Daniel remained nestled beside the giraffe, comforted but confused. The sounds of his name echoed faintly, pulling at his heart. He didn't want to leave the peace he had found, yet he knew he had to return to his family. The fear of what might happen if he stayed was beginning to creep back in. Seeing his uncertainty, the giraffe leaned closer, nudging him ever so gently. "It's okay," her presence seemed to say. The bond between them strengthened in that moment, but Daniel's instincts told him he had to go home. The cries were growing louder, desperation filling the air like a thick fog. Suddenly, there was a rustling noise, and Daniel's eyes widened as he spotted a group of villagers cresting the nearby hill. Relief washed over him. They had come to find him. But before he could shout, the giraffe instinctively stepped between him and the villagers, her tall silhouette creating a barrier. The search party halted, emerged from the trees, intent expressions morphing into shock as they took in the scene. A boy sat in the shadow of a giraffe, an unlikely pair forged in the heat of the crisis. The villagers gasped, and then one of the elders spoke. "Let him be," the wise man said, raising a hand to calm the crowd. A woman exclaimed, fear and relief battling within her. The elder shook his head. "No, she has chosen to stand by him." As Daniel felt the weight of their eyes upon him, he couldn't help but feel caught between two worlds, the warm safety offered by this gentle giant and the frantic love of his family. His mother, deeply worried, stepped forward, both hands outstretched, pleading with the giraffe. "Please let him come home," she beckoned. In a heartbeat, Daniel felt the pull of his mother's voice, the warmth of family. He reached out for her, and in that moment, the giraffe stepped back slightly but remained vigilant. The space between them felt electric, full of unspoken promises and emotions. He called, relief flooding through him. His mother rushed forward, pulling him into an embrace as tears of joy cascaded down her cheeks. Daniel sank into her warmth, feeling her familiar presence wash over him. A wave of gratitude erupted within him for the giraffe who had comforted him when he felt utterly lost. As the villagers stepped closer, they cautiously admired the giraffe, who now stood gracefully a few feet away. Her head held high, she watched them with calm, almost regal eyes, as if she understood she had fulfilled her duty. The moment felt surreal. How could such a creature show such compassion? As Daniel hugged his mother tightly, the giraffe hesitated. A bittersweet pang swelled within her, and she took a slow step back, a protective guardian relinquishing her post. For a split second, Daniel met her gaze, a deep understanding passing between them, and then she turned, disappearing into the golden grass under the setting sun. As the villagers sighed in collective relief, the story began to echo in the town, the tale of Daniel and the giraffe who had kept him safe. It spread rapidly, weaving itself into the fabric of the community. Families gathered, sharing their versions, each fueled by awe and wonder at this unexpected bond formed in a moment of crisis. Days turned into weeks, and as Daniel adjusted back into life at home, he found himself haunted by a longing for his guardian. The acacia tree became a sanctuary for him as he returned often, hoping to capture even a hint of the magic he had experienced. He would close his eyes and whisper words of thanks into the winds that swept through the savannah. In the village, the story of compassion sparked something deeper. Conversations bloomed about the bond between humans and animals, inspiring a new belief in the importance of wildlife conservation. Educators visited schools to teach children about the remarkable connections that exist in nature, urging them to protect the gentle giants that roamed their lands. Then one fateful day, Daniel returned to the acacia tree, the sun casting a soft glow over the landscape. Excitement bubbled inside him. Could it be possible for the giraffe to return? Was there a chance their paths would cross again? With each step closer, he felt the air vibrate with anticipation. Standing beneath the tree, the memories of that heartwarming encounter flooded his mind. Just when doubt began to creep in, a rustle echoed through the tall grass nearby. He held his breath, straining to see through the golden light. The silhouette of a tall figure emerged. He squinted, his heart racing. There she was, the same giraffe he had met before, her spots illuminated against the fading sun. Hope surged through him like wildfire. Could she have come back to him? She stepped forward. He felt his legs move before he realized it, rushing toward her with an uncontainable joy. But just as he neared, another sound broke through the serenity. A rumble of thunder echoed from the distance, dark clouds rolling across the once clear sky. The heat of the day suddenly shifted into a strange tension, heavy and intense. Daniel halted, confusion washing over him. The villagers, who had joined him for a short trip to the savannah, looked at the sky, worry etched across their faces. Just then the giraffe froze, her instincts alerting her to something amiss. She flicked her ears back, sensing danger lurking beyond the horizon. In that moment, a loud crack split the air as a lightning bolt struck nearby, sending shockwaves of fear through the crowd. The giraffe darted back, startled, and Daniel felt a surge of panic grip him. He shouted, stretching out a hand as she moved away from him. The villagers crouched down, shielding themselves from the sudden storm brewing overhead. Daniel stood frozen, torn between two worlds, the protective giant of the savannah he had come to love and the safety of the human family he could not abandon. Called his mother, fear coloring her voice. The first drops of rain began to fall, heavy and sharp, mixing with the dust on the ground. The storm was approaching fast, and with it, uncertainty and fear. The giraffe turned her head, glancing back at him one last time, a silent plea hidden in her eyes. And then she bounded away, retreating into the thick bushes as the sky darkened ominously. He called out, his heart pounding as he strained to follow her retreating form. He knew he had to choose, run back towards safety or chase after the creature who had saved him. Caught in that moment, the tension pulled at his heartstrings. The storm swirled around him, the air thick with electricity and unspoken promises. Would the giraffe return? Would they ever meet again? Even as the winds began to howl and rain poured down, Daniel knew he couldn't just stand there. The connection they shared had changed him in ways he couldn't yet understand. Without a second thought, he dashed into the wild, chasing after the silhouette disappearing into the shadows. His heart raced as he ventured deeper, wondering if his choice would lead him back to safety or into an adventure more dangerous than he could have ever imagined. And in that charged moment, Daniel stepped into the unknown, where the wild weaves tales of bravery and unexpected friendships, ready to face whatever lay ahead. Would the giraffe reappear and lead him back to safety, or would he uncover new truths that would forever alter his destiny? Only time would reveal the answers to the secrets swirling in the storm.